What's up, wherever you're watching from? My name's Dev.
I'm Spooky.
And we're just a couple dudes talking wrestling. Welcome to our first ever podcast. Thanks for checking us out.
We appreciate it. So, as you know, we're just going to be talking all things wrestling from the mainstream to the indie circuit. We're going to be talking about upcoming live events, what's happening in the wrestling world, and, of course, IWR.
Old school, new school, dudes talking wrestling is bringing you up to date on the all things wrestling. But we can't know where we're going if we don't know where we've been. So, Spooky, why'd you even get into wrestling?
Really, I just got into wrestling because of my older brother. So he was a big fan of wrestling. He actually went to WrestleMania 3 at the Silverdome. He saw Hulk Hogan slam Andre the Giant. Awesome. So it was a pretty cool backstory. So, yeah, he just got me and my two younger brothers into wrestling, and I've been a fan ever since.
Okay. For me, it was my pop-up.
Mm-hmm.
This is WWE, WWF was something that we just connected with.
Okay.
Where I spent a lot of time with him growing up. So now he's 90. When I started watching wrestling, I was probably 8. So 20 years ago, I've been watching this stuff, and it still brings a certain comfort. You know, now that he's even in a nursing home, still bringing him up to date, and even like hospital visits will turn on if Raw's on or if they're on a Monday. But who's your favorite wrestler, and what year did you start watching wrestling?
It's kind of hard to pick on the year. I mean, I remember ever since I was young, I want to say around the age of 4 or 5 years old, honestly. I remember watching it really, really young, and The Undertaker was really that guy, you know, it's just his presence, the mystique of him. I was just like, wow, like this really grabbed my attention, you know. I was watching wrestling really when they called it the gimmick era. It was like the generational era. So, you know, you had a lot of gimmicks, obviously, you know, like Doink the Clown, Repo Man, Adam Bomb, Undertaker. That was just a place that I could go to and just escape almost, in a sense, you know? Like, that was my go-to to watch.
And that's almost what I feel like it's supposed to be.
Right.
Wrestling is supposed to be that 2 hours where you can, doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your cultural assets, where you come from, like, you can just dive into, and I that's why I kind of did like the WWE universe,
right? Sure.
Because I didn't feel like I'm on planet Earth, when especially for me, it was the most electrifying man in sports entertainment.
Okay.
That made me fall in love with the sport.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak on 80s and 70s and early wrestling, but it was the best to ever do it, in my opinion.
Okay.
That got me hooked.
Right.
And obviously for him to come in and just take over.
I mean, he did. I mean, The Rock, I mean, he had some classic matches.
Man.
He was so good on the mic, too. I mean, he cut a promo so good. He was good in the ring, out of the ring. His matches were great. I mean, of course, started off as Rocky Maivia.
Right.
Made his way into Nation of Domination with Farouk, D'Lo Brown, Mark Henry, and then obviously broke off into the corporate world and with Vince McMahon became the corporate champ, the people's champ.
The people's champ.
So, I mean, his transition was phenomenal, you know, and he was that guy to put it down. And lay the smack down, if you would.
Literally. I mean, as soon as that elbow pad came off, like...
Oh, yeah. That was the most powerful elbow. And
also his reactions to, like, stunners and just, like, the theatrics behind it all.
Right, yeah.
Made it so fun.
For sure.
That even as, word is on the street, he's coming back.
No, yeah. So we'll see about that. But, I mean, yeah, the rumor is that he may return at WrestleMania next year, so we'll see. I mean, the tribal chief may have something coming to him.
Anytime that you hear his music start, you just know.
Yeah, you hear that little, if you smell, like, that's almost like with Austin, you know, you hear the glass breaking, Undertaker, you hear the bell. These are significant theme songs that just gave you chills. As soon as
they gave you chills.
As soon as you heard it, you already knew.
Let's talk about some of the memorable tag teams. I know this is still our first episode, but that whole era of Devon and Bubba Ray, you had Scotty 2 Hotty and Rikishi teaming up.
Oh, yeah.
You had, Edge and Christian. You had Jeff and Matt. All these excellent tag teams. Were you a tables, ladders, or chairs guy?
Man, I was honestly more of the tables and ladders. I can't say all three. I mean, going back now that I'm older, watching Edge and Christian, I mean, the promos were classic. I think it was the 30-second pose. They would go in the rings. If you had your camera phone, you know, your flip phone's ready, we'll do a pose for 30 seconds. I mean, with the goofy glasses and the little gimmicks that
And remember, they would.
Oh, yeah, yep. The little poses, yeah, with the hats, all that.
They were doing it.
They were doing it. I mean, to me, they interacted the best with the fans. I mean, sure, Devon, get the tables. You know, the fans were going crazy for the tables.
Yep.
But, I mean, Edge and Christian, they knew how to interact with the fan. They knew how to bring you in to the match.
100%. And we all know Christian was unfortunately always in the shadows, in my opinion.
Okay, I mean, that's fair to say.
Until he eventually did come back and win.
Yeah, I mean, he did
World
break out.
Championship,
And, yep.
Which I think people forget also.
Right.
But it had to be as soon as you heard this.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
you
Oh,
knew
yeah.
that guns were blazing.
Right.
Obviously, Jeff being the breakout star, but Matt still bringing the heat. And it was funny. I was always rooting for the underdog. So, like, it might have been like 07, the video games, I'd be Matt Hardy, like, to enter the Rumble. And I was like, oh, that's, like, come on.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Don't act
I'll
like
give it a shot.
Right. Don't act like he wasn't throwing a mean head kick. But Matt and Jeff definitely had, like, me just in awe. The fact they all put their body through so much for our entertainment. And I think people forget that. But the Hardy Boys did it for me.
Right. I mean, and then just to not discredit Devon or Bubba Ray, I mean, even with the 3D, the tables, they had some significant matches. And then, of course, bringing in Spike Dudley back from ECW, you know, they brought him in. They had some really good matches and definitely made an impact, so to speak.
No, one last thing, we'll wrap up this tag team. But for a good year, I felt like Bubba Ray was just on a rampage. Anybody could get thrown through the tables.
I mean, they were doing singles match, table match. You know, like it didn't matter whatever it was. I mean, they definitely all six of those guys will
from
say
Mae Young to Trish Stratus. Right. It did not matter.
You didn't know who was getting slammed. You know, anybody could get in. That was really cool about that era and that time, that it was so unpredictable that you don't know.
Now, let me transition to this. Did you ever want to be a wrestler?
I mean, sure. You know, I was like, wow, like, would I really pursue it? No. But backyard wrestling, yeah. I mean, we definitely were holding matches. I mean, I remember bringing out all of our mattresses. Like, we took beds apart at my house, brought them in the backyard, would set up a little cage, little milk crates around. You know, we find little things around the neighborhood to just bring in to have our own little hardcore matches.
Oh, yeah.
That was fun. I mean, that's as far as I took it, though. I was never going to pursue it to really go to be a wrestler, though.
See, we grew up in an apartment complex where we all watched. Mm-hmm. We all watched. It didn't matter. We might have been at Cody's house, rest in peace, my brother. One night, his mom always ordered the pay-per-views. Mm-hmm. So we all knew we were going to Cody's house, and literally, he recently passed away this year. So to even start this podcast, I have to take a second just to say, like, in memory of my man Cody, because he was like I might have been 7, he might have been 13. You know what I mean? I was like that little older, but like took you under your wing, and that was my wrestling guy. So he loved Triple H, and of course he was always beat me up and put me in, you know, the walls of Jericho, and then I would tell his mom, I'm like, he's hurting me. She's like, oh, you guys are just playing. I'm like, no, we're not playing.
No, he brought me over here to use me as a stunt double. Like, he's practicing these fucking moves on me.
I'm like, I'm not getting crippler crossface.
No.
Jeez.
Yeah, I hated that. I mean, I was more of a smaller guy, so I was like jumping off of stuff, trying to be Jeff Hardy, almost like Rob Van Dam, you know?
I want to talk about, because you were a wrestling kid and so was I. Did you tell anybody else that you were like a big wrestling fan? Because people were so like, and here's, I guess, when I had a reality check of what wrestling even is. Mm-hmm. It was a Monroe High, I think, like pep rally, and they said they're gonna have wrestlers there.
Okay.
So what do you think when I got there and I saw a mat with some guys coming out in singlets at 7 row? I'm like, oh.
I thought Mankind was gonna be
I'm like,
here.
where's the ring?
Right.
I'm like, where's Stone Cold? I'm looking like for everybody. I'm like, oh, this guy's bald. That's not Stone Cold. So I was all in. You couldn't tell me that this was sports entertainment. Right. This is going down.
Right.
Some of the kids at school, man, hated on wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
What was your approach?
I mean, pretty much the same thing. You know, I remember there was this cat named Aaron, 5th grade, Mr. Degrosky's class. Like, that was my guy to talk wrestling to, you know. Really select few, I guess, you know. Like, if you knew about it, you knew, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't something that you were just like, hey, I was watching this last night, you know what I mean?
No.
You know,
and
so,
now as adults, it's
right.
funny.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy
see,
to
like,
just,
hey,
it's almost more accepted.
100%.
You know,
There's
it's like,
a whole
wow.
new era
Right.
of, especially in our area, I'll say,
Okay.
or at least in our network.
Sure, yeah.
You
that's fair
can
to say.
name 4 or 5 different shows every month.
Right.
Or at least somebody in our network can.
Mm-hmm.
And tell you, hey, are you missing this show or this is
Right.
going on? And I don't even want to call IWR independent wrestling. I want to call it its own, you know, sanction. But these athletes that they're having,
Mm-hmm.
second to none.
Right.
We're getting some of the best wrestling, I'll say, for your dollar, because tickets are still starting at $15.
Can't beat it.
$15 for some of the biggest names in wrestling.
And they put on good matches too. It's not just like, hey, let me come out, showboat a little
goodness,
bit, and
man.
just. I mean, they're actually sweating. They're
That last
you know,
Trey Miguel, man, his every single match, Trey, it doesn't matter. This is just, I didn't even know about Trey Miguel. Pete knew about Trey Miguel, but I knew about Trey Miguel through IWR.
Okay.
So then, once I hit my little Wikipedia search and start, I'm like,
Doing some
oh
research.
my
Yeah.
goodness,
Like, this guy's actually.
my bad. Like, I can't believe this ticket's only $15. And I'm a huge fan. I want nothing but success for every single one of those wrestlers. But he gets it.
Right.
He is the nonstop package. He doesn't care if it's 300 or 3,000 or 30,000.
Right.
This dude's putting it all out there. And there's something that needs to be said about that to other wrestlers of he's the expectation. We can go on and on. We can go back and forth. Let's just keep it. Sam Beal. Okay.
You already knew.
Exactly.
You know.
Top notch Jason Hodge.
Okay.
He's there. Kenny Urban. And we spoke
Kenny
on
Urban,
that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In our opinion, Kenny is not even
Kyle
close.
Barrett, you know, just, I mean, he gets it. He's one of those guys that interacts with the fans. He's got the persona. He's
But
got
also,
the moves.
He'll
Like,
use that little heelness. You know what I
Right,
mean? When you
right.
say interact, he's not. I don't like him. And he's made me not like him.
but I mean, that's
because
what
of
brings
the
you back
character.
in a sense, though.
Exactly.
You know, you're as much as you're like, I don't really care to see him. You want to see this guy, you know,
And-
because you want to hate on him when he's at the show.
I'm like, who? Nate Bach, okay. And it was cool from seeing him from Taste of.
Right.
That was super cool.
Right, of course.
Plug to Taste of, obviously. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See,
Good little plug. But you know, these guys are around and they're doing stuff, and they're putting on a show, just like you said. It doesn't matter if they're in front of 15 people or 1,500 people. They're gonna give you the same amount of energy.
And what I had to remember too is there are those mid-card athletes, wrestlers.
Of course.
You have to have those guys that aren't performing at the end of the show every single night or every single month or week, whatever but that are keeping everybody engaged. And you know who I'm going to start with that I haven't seen in a while? Going back to IWR, is the friendliest wrestler around. You know who I'm talking about?
I don't.
Okay, well, just him as his gimmick. I believe his name's Brian something.
Okay.
And I'm going to check on that. But he's a spiky-haired guy, and his gimmick, haven't seen him maybe won 1 or 2 matches, if that. But every time that he comes out of that curtain, the crowd's loving it.
Okay.
Loving it.
Right.
And that's a part of wrestling.
It is.
If you can't connect with the fans, not just in the ring, but out, and if it wasn't for the fans, you wouldn't be doing this.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's for any business or any sport. You know, it's all about the fans. It's all about really the kids too. I mean, yeah, I'm sure we're not kids, but we go there and we feel like kids. You know, we have a blast every time we go there. It's like
We don't sit.
all that stuff's out of the window. I'm up there cheering. I'm booing. I'm having a good time. Like, it's just brings you back to a good pastime that you never want to forget.
100%.
And I think that the IWR community, you know, or sanction, if you would, they do a really good job of that. You know, they bring out the families, and whether or not we have our families, it could just be us guys
Correct.
hanging out. You know,
Correct.
It's like, hey, let's bring it back.
Right.
You know,
And I think people that are maybe not even a part of the show, but as you and I witnessed, sometimes the fans become a part of the show.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely do. I mean, we've seen some things where we were like, wait a minute, who's in charge of this right now?
I gotta ask Gary some questions.
Yeah, Gary, we're gonna have to talk to you about some things real quick because we got to be aware, like what's going on here in the audience. Like,
but the amount that how do I put this? The amount, the level of intensity and the level of professionalism that is brought to the IWR is second to none. Not only in the state of Michigan, but I'm going to say maybe on the nation.
I mean, definitely. I mean,
pound for pound.
Pound for pound. That's good. I mean, going back to even Sam Beal being on Total Nonstop Action, TNA.
Yep.
And I'm sure even some of the guys may or may not have been on AEW Dark. That's a platform right there. You know, that's second to none right there next to WWE. And you have these guys right in your backyard. I mean, on
a monthly basis.
On a monthly basis, too. And they're not afraid to experience it with the fans too. They're out there with the merch tables. They're taking pictures with the fans. They don't act Hollywood. They don't act like they're top-notch celebrities.
No. But we're having top-notch wrestlers coming.
That's what I mean,
though.
Yeah, we are. But okay, yeah. So switching gears, not to discredit IWR or anything. Right. Shout out to Gary. Shout out to Rhino.
Thank you, guys.
Shout out to IWR. Thank you so much for what you guys do for Monroe County and for the fans
and surrounding areas and for the wrestlers because they give them a platform.
They give it back. So switching gears now, what was your favorite pay-per-view? Like, what were you most excited for growing up?
Not even close. Royal Rumble. I want to see every single person in the ring.
Right.
I want to see people that are just making it through, coming in at 7, sticking around till 18, 19. Right. There was something about just having every single wrestler in the ring and seeing who could make it out.
Yeah,
was
absolutely.
Just the absolute coolest thing for me.
And
absolute coolest.
Even seeing who was going to be the last one coming in.
Or as soon as the music started, bam.
Right.
Bam.
Because, I mean, the Royal Rumble is when you get some guests, you get some surprises. You could have a legend. I'm sure you remember even Drew Carey entered into the Royal Rumble. I mean, Kane really gave him a number, but you don't know who's going to walk through the curtain. That was, for me as a kid, I was geeked up. I was like, yeah, the Royal Rumble. And then even, growing up, still watching it, you get with your buddies, like, hey, let's draw numbers out of a hat, make it a little interesting. Throw $5-10. Let's have a little pot going.
Who do you got?
Who do you got? You know what I'm saying? So
that's good.
So that was pretty cool too. I mean, of course, WrestleMania, but I would have to give it to the Royal Rumble. I mean, I couldn't wait.
No, the Royal Rumble is definitely very, very smooth and something that people are looking forward to as well. Anytime SummerSlam came around, because you knew that summer was coming to an end.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They had some great SummerSlam matches. What would you say yours is? Oh, you said the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, the Royal Rumble would be mine too. I mean, I got to agree with you on that.
Now, I want to touch before we go. What are you looking forward to most with Triple H at the helm of WWE?
I mean, he's already started it. I mean, I definitely read a lot of insider news and stuff like that. Bringing back, I don't know, I want to say like bringing back the roots, if you would, for the Attitude Era. Right. Okay. We have Road Dogg now in position. Shawn Michaels as head of, I think it's the talent. Creative talent. And just bringing back the originality of, again, the gimmick roles, these wrestlers really living out their full potential. Even with Kevin Owens, in a way, he's even repackaged him back to the NXT days, giving him back the theme. He's got the duct tape with the KO on it, coming back. So that right there is what's making fans fall back in love with wrestling. I mean, I think it was for Survivor Series, I believe, they've already sold out. And WrestleMania damn near sold out already, and these are ticket sales that haven't been, quote unquote, selling out in years.
You want to know what I think it is? It's the fans coming back.
Right.
I think it's the fans are coming back, the 28, the 35-year-olds, the 40 and under crowd. Let's say
40 and under.
That 25 to 40 that knew what good wrestling was.
Exactly. And with that, you want to see, it's almost like a new page in a chapter.
Correct.
And it's like, all right, out with the old, in with the new, with Vince kind of stepping down for a minute.
Yep.
at the end of the day, it's like Triple H. Yeah, we'll give Vince his credit. You know, I mean, he's the reason why we're talking now,
Correct.
right? But Triple H, he was backstage with those guys. He was in the mix. He knows what it's like to be a wrestler, and he knows what's best for TV and for business.
That's kind of like, not to get off topic, but you have to have somebody that's been there. You have to have somebody that lives it.
Lives it, right. And almost like a fan. Like, as much as he is in charge, he's still a fan of the business. And
100%.
I mean,
He's a fan
come on
of
now.
wrestling.
I want to see on TV what I want to see, and I know that let's give these guys a shot, you know. And he's bringing back several wrestlers that they cut in the last 2 years. I'm pretty excited to see the return of Bray Wyatt. If not, it happens. I mean, that would be great. You know, Bray Wyatt is, again, like The Undertaker to me, is like that gimmick with the Fiend and just portraying that whole role was something fresh and something new. Like, made me fall back in love with wrestling too, because it's like The Undertaker was crazy, and then of course, you know, he retires, and that's kind of like where it almost died for us. You know, you got Shawn Michaels retired. All these guys we grew up in the Attitude Era, they're 50-something years old now.
Wrestled his
last match. Yeah, so we'll see.
You know, wrapping this up for this episode, Stelios, what are you most excited to experience along this podcast journey?
I would say to obviously the interviews that are to come, and to just relive our pastime and to just be able to check out some of our highlighted moments, whether it was the Attitude Era, could even be WCW, ECW, and just stay in the whole realm, stay in the mix.
And you said something earlier. You said, you know, I don't want to grow up. And I think with wrestling, this professional wrestling, it allows us to keep that same kid-like spirit.
Right.
And pass that on for generations to generations. So there we have it for our first ever episodes of Dudes Talking Wrestling. We hope that you guys were entertained. Leave us a note in the comments of episodes that you want us to review, matches you want us to take a look at. But remember, at the end of the day, we're just a couple dudes talking wrestling.
We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.